Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and happy Black History Month. We have reached the month of February of 2025. Boy, January flew by, didn't it? I don't know, maybe just for me, because I mentioned that to somebody else the other day. They were like, man, it drug for me. Like, really? Uh, I feel like we just had Christmas about a week ago, and here we are. It's February. But nonetheless, it is Black History Month. And every year here on the KB Radio Network, we celebrate Black History Month in our own special way. Hey, we keep it going. We keep it going because I came to the realization when I was younger, back in my day, I had to endure all of those Black History movies and stories coming on TV, and now you don't see none of them. I mean, I would say about 20, 25 years, we haven't seen the kind of content that we received when I was a kid. We learned so much. But to be honest with you, it's kind of a good thing because all we ever saw growing up was around the Jim Crow era type films, movies that took place during the civil rights movement and stuff like that, the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's of it all. And after a while, you start to ask yourself, did black folks ever do anything else, in any part of is there more to the history of black people than just that? And in case you don't know, yes, I am black, so I am saying this as a black man. And it's like, man, we don't have no other stories to tell here. This is crazy to me. So I always felt, especially when I started this podcast, that when it came around to Black History Month, we weren't just going to focus solely on the civil rights era or focus solely on slavery. If you notice, if you've been listening from the beginning, God bless you all who have been here from the beginning. But you notice that I don't too much talk about movies that deal with slavery. I don't too much talk about movies that deal with the civil rights era because we've seen those movies to death and it's depressing. That is the most depressing time in black history. We got enough to deal with as black people. We have enough in normal everyday life to deal with than to deal with the darkest part of our history. Um, it's things that could be celebrated, things that should be celebrated, and we don't talk about them. And I think that's an injustice to black folks. That being said, uh, the movie that we're going to review today, a little in a few, is kind of a civil rights era type of film. It happens, it takes place during the Jim Crow era, and so I'm fully aware that it's kind of hypocritical that I just went on this whole diatribe about that that I don't do it, and this is what we're doing today. But it's kind of fitting with what we're talking about today because it's something about this when I learned the theme of this year's Black History Month. And every year there's a different theme. In case you didn't know, when I learned the theme of this month, I was like, okay, what goes with that? And all that kept playing in my head was Mississippi, going back to where my parents grew up in Mississippi in the Delta, and going up there to visit my grandparents. And, every time I went up there, all I can think about was work. And this is when I was a little kid, all I could think about was work because that's all they did up there was work. This year's theme is African Americans in labor. Not in labor like childbirth and labor as in working. And so I thought about Mississippi and I thought about what my parents told me about growing up on a pseudo plantation and doing all the work around the fields and picking cotton and all that good stuff, raising hogs and that good living that they had up there. And I could not pass up the opportunity to talk about a film that I really enjoyed. We'll get into it more once we review it, but it is the 2017 Netflix film, Oscar nominated film nonetheless, Mudbound, which is set in the Mississippi Delta. And um I just had a strong connection to that movie, and we'll discuss that when we get to it. But as I said, this is Black History Month, and in case you don't know, this is the 99th Black History Month, technically, because in 1926 it all started with Negro History Week, and it spawned into Black History Month. So it all started in 1926. And so next year will be the 100th Black History Month, and I can't wait. God spare, if we make it that far, it's gonna be bananas as far as this show is concerned, and we're gonna do it big for Black History Month next year. But as far as this year is concerned, African Americans and labor. The 2025 Black History Month theme, African Americans in labor, focuses on the various and profound ways that work and working of all kinds, free and unfree, skilled and unskilled, vocational and voluntary, intersect with a collective experience of Black people. Work is at the very center of most of Black history and culture. Of course, needless to say, slavery. That's about as work can get when it comes to uh well, at least giving an example of that. But in any event, uh be it the traditional agricultural labor of enslaved Africans that fed low country colonies, debates among Black educators on the importance of vocational training, self help strategies, and entrepreneurship in the Black communities, or organized labor roles in fighting both or economic and social injustice. Black people's work has been transformative throughout the United States, Africa, and other territories. The 2025 Black History Month theme, African Americans and Labor, sets out to highlight this and celebrate the poignant impact of this work. Considering Black people's work through the widest perspectives provide insightful platforms for examining Black life and culture through time and space. In this instance, the notion of work constitutes compensated labor in factories, the military, government agencies, office buildings, public service, and private homes. But it also includes the community building of social justice activists, voluntary workers serving others, and institution building in churches, community groups, and social clubs and organizations. In each of these instances, the work Black people do and have done have been instrumental in shaping the lives, culture, and histories of Black people and the societies in which they live. Understanding Black labor and its impact in all these multifaceted settings is integral in understanding Black people and their history, lives, and culture. And yes, I know, like I said before, it's a little hypocritical. I'm about to dive into slavery, but you can't leave it out when we're talking about this particular theme. Africans were brought to the United States to be enslaved for their knowledge and serve as a workforce, which was super exploited by several European countries and then by the United States government. During enslavement, black people labored for others. Although some black people were quasi free and labored for themselves, uh, but operated within a country that did not value black life. And boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same, huh? After fighting for their freedom in the Civil War and in the country's transition from the agricultural based economy to an industrial one, African Americans became sharecroppers, farm laborers, landowners, and then wage earners. Additionally, African Americans' contribution to build landscape can be found in every part of the nation as they constructed and designed some of the most iconic examples of agricultural heritage in the country, specifically in the South. Over the years to combat the super exploitation of black labor, wage disparities, and employment discrimination based on the race, sex, and gender, black professionals such as teachers, nurses, musicians, lawyers, uh, as well as occupations such as steel workers, washwomen, dock workers, sex workers, sports, arts, and scientists, they organized for better working conditions and compensation. Black women such as Addie Wyatt also joint ranks with union work and leadership to advocate for job security, reproductive rights, and wage increases. The theme, African Americans and labor, intends to encourage broad reflections on intersections between black people's work and their workplaces in all their iterations and key moments, themes, and events in black history and culture across time and space and throughout the United States, Africa, and other territories. 2025 marks the 100-year anniversary of the creation of Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and Maids by labor organizer and civil rights activist A. Philip Randolph, which is the first black union to receive a charter in the American Federation of Labor. Martin Luther King Jr. incorporated issues outlined by Rudolph's March on Washington Monument, such as economic justice, into the Poor Persons Campaign, which he established in 1967. For Martin Luther King Jr., it was a priority for black people to be considered full citizens. So, in closing to all that, I just want to say that this country, and not just the United States, but multiple countries, are indebted to black people for helping build their countries, and the United States in particular. And this is the part that angers me. I used to say at one time in my life that this would anger all black people, but I've learned over the past year that not all black people feel the way I do. And, I had to come to grips with that. And it's nothing to, throw shade on people who feel differently, but I got to throw shade at a certain portion of them who strongly believe that black folks aren't being disenfranchised, black folks aren't being treated differently in this country. And no bigger lie has been told. When I tell you that black people are constantly being held down, held back, and looked over when it comes to the workplace, I'm not telling you what I read, what I see on TV, or what somebody told me. I'm telling you from firsthand experience. This has happened to me on several occasions, and it's not a good feeling. So, the hard work that you put in is like for nothing. To be working at a job, and I'm gonna do something I normally don't do here on the channel. I'm gonna go behind the curtain. I'm gonna show you how a little something. To work on a job for over 20 years, I mean, work hard. come to work every day, do what is asked of you, and to constantly being looked over or being passed over for somebody who is white to walk in off the street and be placed over you, who has been doing the job, knows the job, and the person that they brought in on the street. It's one thing you bring in somebody off the street who has done it before, know a little something about the job that you're doing. No, the person they brought in from off the street knew nothing, knew absolutely nothing about the job we are doing. And it was said that we know you know more than him. Okay, then why is he over me? And then double down on it, brought in another person and put him over me too. Overall, three people. They brought in three people to do the job that they could have just gave to one. That one being me. And it was the darkest time in my life as far as professional wise. It was the darkest time in my life. Very depressing, very hard to go to work, wanting to quit, but you put in so much time, so much blood, sweat, and tears at a place. And, just walking away isn't the easiest thing to do. It's so good thing I didn't, because it was all kind of corrected. Well, not kind of, it was corrected. I just had to hang tough, hang tough, and that mistake was rectified. Now I'm over those people. So it paid off at the end, but look at what I had to go through in order for it to pay off. I had to eat a lot of crow. I had to swallow a lot of pride, and I had to cry myself to sleep many a night because I had to go back to that job the next morning. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but the hard work did pay off. It did pay off. Um, the problem is, all I had to go through to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? And it's so easy for white folks to just be handed positions, and it wasn't just the three individuals that I'm talking about. It happened all across the place where I work. You know, if you go through, and I'm a supervisor, and all of the black supervisors on my job, they worked there for 20 years plus. We've been there for 20 years plus, all the black supervisors. All the white supervisors, you couldn't add their time together and get 20 years collectively. That tells you everything you need to know. That tells you everything you need to know. But regardless, it's still an amazing feat, because all of the black supervisors, we were there from the beginning. I started with those guys. We started from the bottom. Now we're here. We worked our way up. We did it the right way, at least what you would think is the right way. To keep the lights on at home, to take care of their families, my family, and we went about it the right way, and eventually it did pay off. With that being said, with that being said, you know who the biggest detractors are on my job? You would think it was the white folks that would be coming up against. Nope, nope, nope. It's the black folks. it's the black folks on our job. And that's the sad part. And that's why months like this, Black History Month, are so important, because we need to learn about black history and what the effects of working together can do. If we are able to work together, and it is not about everybody agreeing with every single thing that comes out of every single person's mouth. That's virtually impossible. I live in a house with a wife and two daughters, and none of us agree on nothing. But we make it work. It's all about making it work, coming to compromises, which more often than not it is me who has to do the compromising. But it neither here nor there. We come together and come up with a plan to execute our goal. black folks, for some strange reason, once we don't agree with somebody else, that's it. We're shunning them. We're done with them. We're not even gonna try to come together to come together for the greater good. I think back to this election, and I'm gonna break protocol here because I said that I wasn't gonna talk about that stuff no more. I wasn't gonna talk about this current idiot who's in the White House as long as he's there. But the black folks, at least the black folks in my little crooked circle, they were so diverse. They were so divided, divisive in this election. And it wasn't a matter of Harris versus Trump. It was, you never heard anything about Trump. It was more that they just didn't like Harris. And let me just say, I wasn't the biggest Harris fan. I wasn't. But that was my choices. There were no other options here. You had to think about the greater good. Playing the game with these politics is something that has started, since Trump ran the first time. They're playing games, and you're not thinking of the greater good. I wasn't voting for Harris for me. It wasn't about me. It was about those two sets of eyes that are in my house. It's about my two daughters who are here. That's who I was voting for. And it wasn't because of the black girl magic. It wasn't because, I want a black woman to get in there so my children can see a black woman. My black daughters can see a black woman in office. All that's fine and good, but it was more or less, I didn't want my daughters to have to deal with this crazy man and the policies this crazy idiot is putting in place for years to come. Because I don't know how much time I got on this earth. Hopefully I got another 40 years. We'll see. But I don't know how much more time I have on this earth. But I know my children are going to be here much longer than me. They're going to be affected by this more than me. And so I was doing it for them. And that was the disappointing part for me. That's the part that hurt me. And the fact that nobody could see past their nose. Nobody can see that this was a bigger problem than just, oh, we can get a stimulus check. Oh, he's not going to tax child support. I had a dude tell me that. Yeah, Trump going to take the taxes off child support. Fool, who cares about that? Really, take care of your kid. You worried about getting taxed off of child support. Whatever. Or claiming the child on your taxes, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it's a stupid reason. But that's your reason. That's your reason. But yeah. Let me get back to the point here, because now my head hurting. This is why I did. This is why I said I don't want to talk about that. But I know it's gonna happen because the dude been in office for 2 weeks at the time of this recording, 2 or 3 weeks, however long it's been. It feels like a year because he has done some of the most boneheaded, stupid stuff already. He has said some of the most racist, vile things already. And I'm sitting there like, my God in heaven. And the latest thing with this helicopter crash that took place in Washington, D.C. the other day, the stuff that came out of his mouth, I wanted to talk about it so bad. But I had to force myself not to record a show about it. And so I probably still am, because it's been on my mind for 2 days. And I'm probably gonna have to dedicate a show to it. I'm probably gonna have to break my promise to all of you, and more importantly to myself in my mental health. And so we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna pray on it. But back to this month, we're celebrating. This is celebration, even though you can't tell. It's a celebration of Black History Month and the theme of African Americans and labor. And for those of you who've been following the show forever, and it kind of sounds weird for me to say African Americans, you're like, man, I thought he didn't say that. I don't, but that's the theme of the month. I don't like the term African Americans. If you're new to the show, I don't care for that term. I'm black. I'm black on my birth certificate, so I'm black. I don't know nobody in Africa. As far back as I can remember, every ancestor I have is from Mississippi. Now, I'm not a buffoon. I know that that my ancestors came from Africa. I know that they were drugged here on ships and whatnot. I know what all took place. I'm just saying, it's so far down the line. Does it even count right now? I mean, really, does it even matter? I'm not African. I'm an American. I'm an American. My parents were born in America. My grandparents were born in America. There's no African there. Now, once you go past that, maybe, but I don't think so because my great grandmother was actually Native American, and so that's going down a whole different rabbit hole. But anywho's, uh, African American and labor. And so let's get into our review today. This is a film, like I said before. I've mentioned Mississippi a couple of times, and I loved going to Mississippi. I loved going to Mississippi so much. When I grew up, it felt like a vacation. And when I went on an actual vacation, when I got older and got kids of my own, when we went to Disney World and when we went to the beaches, and we went different cities, went to New York and went to Las Vegas, we went to different places. It was weird to me because I feel like a vacation is when I went to Mississippi to visit my grandparents. That was a vacation. That was exciting to me. I loved going there. Now I haven't been there in years because they've changed so much from where my parents grew up at. Uh, it changed so much that the houses aren't even there no more. The, Most of the people that were there are gone now, so it's not the same, and it hurt me to my heart when when all that took place. But I just love that area of the world. Never want to pick cotton and all that, but I love that area of the world. And it brought my heart joy to see a film that was based or set in that part of the country. Ironically, it wasn't filmed in Mississippi in the Delta. It was filmed here in New Orleans. And so there's even a stronger connection to me, I guess you could say. And it is the 2017 historical drama Mudbound, directed by D. Rees. This is a film that is based off a novel uh, by Hillary Jordan, I believe her name is. And it's a movie that is the depiction of World War II veterans. One was white, one was black. They returned to this rural Mississippi town. Each have to address racism and PTSD along the way. And it's a very strong film, a very strong film. And I wasn't expecting it to be as strong as it was. This film stars Carey Mulligan, Garrett Hudlin, Jason Clark, Jason Mitchell, Jonathan Banks, Rob Morgan, and the great Mary J. Blige. This film, it came out on Netflix, and it went on to have some phenomenal success during the award season that year. The Golden Globes, I think it received 3 nominations at the Golden Globes. Best Supporting Actress for Mary J. Blige, and the Best Original Song also by Mary J. Blige. And then at the Academy Awards, it earned 4 nominations. Best Supporting Actress for Mary J. Blige. Yes, a lot of people don't realize that, don't remember that, but Mary J. Blige is an Academy Award nominated actress. for this film, the original song, and also best adapted screenplay for Dee Reese and Virgil Williams. Now, Dee Reese became the first African American woman to ever be nominated in that category, which is phenomenal. Also, best cinematography it was nominated for Rachel Morrison, who was the first woman nominated in that category. This film was very good. Very, very good. When I first watched it, the first time I watched it back in 2017, I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was one of the best movies of that year. I still feel that way. I still feel it is up there with some of the best movies Netflix has put out, original wise. I really enjoyed it. One of the takeaways in this film is Jason Mitchell. Jason Mitchell, he's popped up in a number of films. He was on The Shy, that TV show that was on Showtime, and he got in trouble on that TV show, and he hasn't really done anything since. And it's really sad. And he's from New Orleans, by the way, but it's really sad because I thought he was one of the best up and coming black actors in Hollywood up to that point. Um, Really good actor. Really good actor. I hope he's able to bounce back and get back to the craft that he loves and that he's good at. Really good performance by him here. Garrett Hudlin liked him in this role. Actually, all of the actors, there's no point going through the list. This is an excellently acted film from top to bottom, and especially for Mary J. Blige, who came out of the award season as the only person or actor nominated out of this cast throughout the award season that year, and rightfully so. Mary J. Blige, she disappeared in this role. For all of you who watch Power on Stars and you see her on which one of the Powers she was, because I stopped watching Power after and I'm blanking on his name, Ghost died, and it just wasn't there. I tried to watch it. Well, it's called Ghost, Power Ghost, about with the son, the one who killed Ghost. Spoilers. Yeah, I tried watching it. I got through the first season and I just couldn't do it. But anywho's, her on that show, she was all right. She didn't blow my socks off. I really loved her on the first season of the Umbrella Academy. Really good on that show. I mean, she almost stole that show. She was that good. And when this movie came out, she really embodied a person. And I know quite a few who are from that area of the country, from the Mississippi Delta. And I can see her being my auntie or, somebody, a part of my family. She just reminded me so much of her and of somebody I would know in my family. And she was so good, and to carry the pain and be the backbone of that family. And I like the dynamic of the white point of view and the black point of view. It was written fairly well. The tone was pretty even throughout, and the cinematography. Rachel Morrison, she deserved that nomination. I believe she worked with Ryan Coogler, I believe, on his first. I think she worked on Black Panther, Creed, and Fruitvale Station, if I'm not mistaken. I could be off, but if I'm not mistaken, she worked with Ryan Coogler on those films. But even if I'm wrong, this was phenomenal. I loved the look of this film. It felt like Mississippi, and to say that it was shot in the New Orleans area, you couldn't tell. You could not tell. This felt like Mississippi. I mean, they captured it. I was watching this movie hoping to get a glimpse of the plantation that my that my parents used to live at, because it looked, I mean, blade of grass for blade of grass of everything, tree for tree of the area where my parents used to live. And it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. They should have had me voting because I she would have got it. She would have got that award. But overall, this was a good film. My only takeaway from it, like every single movie set in this type of setting, I guess you could say, you got to have the white savior. You got to have the white hero that comes along. Not all white folks are bad and all this here. It's got to have that trope. And it has this here. Even though I felt it should have been, they addressed a certain issue, but they didn't drive it home like I would have liked, that these two men, the white man and the black man who were veterans, you know, as long as they weren't home together, around each other together there, they were fine. When they was all fighting this war, they were brothers. But once they got back home to Mississippi, that wasn't happening, and they should have drove. I think that relationship should have been flushed out a tad bit more. But, you know, it is what it is. At this point, you're kind of getting used to it. Yeah, and that's the sad part. But it takes a major ding for that because I'm tired of seeing that trope in films. But that being said, I think this is a really, really good film, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Mudbound from 2017 gets a letter grade of a B minus. I think is a very, very good film, and poignant for this year's Black History Month and its theme, because there is some work involved here. There's some working in this movie, but yeah. If you haven't checked out Mudbound, I highly recommend it. But what are you doing this month to celebrate Black History Month? Are you going to some of those events? It's festivals all over the place. There's events all over the place. Church functions. There's all type of stuff. What are you doing to celebrate Black History Month? What are you teaching your kids for Black History Month? Because kids these days, my girls, one girl, my oldest daughter, she graduated college last year. My youngest is graduating this year. But I can remember when they were in school, in middle school and high school. I'm like, well, y'all learned anything about Black history? When we get to February, they're like, no, they ain't teaching that. I'm like, really? It was kind of a shock because they taught it at our school, when we were going to school, my age group. It was, Jim Crow crap, but they did address Black history. They ain't even address it when they was in school. I'm pretty sure I told this story before, but it still boggles my mind because the district that they went to school in was an all Black district. You would think if anybody was going to talk about it, it would have been him, but no, it wasn't. But in any event, it is Black History Month. I wish all of African Americans, Black Americans, whatever you go by, happy Black History Month. Even those outside, even those who are invited to the cookout, a happy Black History Month. And don't forget, Black History is 365, 366 on a leap year, 24/7. It isn't just relegated to the shortest month of the year. Black history happens every day of the year from January 1st to December 31st. So we celebrate it all the time, and it's to be celebrated all the time. It's so much that Black people have done to contribute to the formation of this nation. It's not just slavery. It's not just marches. Look, think of all of the inventions, all that Black people have done throughout time to help with the industrial industry, inventing the cotton gin, inventing traffic lights. Yeah, Black people, a Black man did that. architect designing the White House. Didn't know that. You, you know, designing the White House, black person did it. And built it too. But that's neither here nor there. But it's so much that black folks have done to contribute to not only this nation but the world as a whole. And so give us our doggone propers and put some respect on our names. I would love to know how you plan to ring in Black History Month. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, once again, happy Black History Month. I hope you enjoy your month. I hope you get out, go to some festivals, go to a museum, a Black History museum. They're out there. You just got to search for them. Learn what you can learn about the history of black folk. Show us some love. And speaking of love, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.